Hi, Sharon here from Little Balloon Creations, and welcome to my studio. Today I am going to show you how to prepare and sew the Indulgence Flower Bloom. So if you are joining in and sewing my Memories of Forever quilt, this one will be a good one for you. Or if you just want an introduction on how to serve gentle curves. Now, my Memories Forever quilt is based on my Indulgence Bloom, and it has the small shield pieces that join them all together. So today I'm going to show you how to fussy cut one bloom, and then we're going to sew it together, and I'm going to show you how to sew the gentle curves. They're not hard, they're not scary. Once you've done a couple, you'll be an old hand at it. Okay, so what we're playing with is the Indulgence petal, and that's that one, and the Indulgence leaf. These, for the Memories Are Forever quilt, will be accompanied by the joining shield piece. So I've just gone to my stash and I've grabbed a piece of fabric out, which will be this one here. This is the fabric I'm going to fussy cut for you today. This is from Chula Pink's, I want to say, Everglow. Let's check the salvage, shall we? Yep, Chula Pink's Everglow range, and this is the all ears print in pink. Now, one of the things I absolutely love with Chula Pink ranges is the florals that she has within her prints. They are so pretty and you can get so many gorgeous effects from them. I just love using them. So we're going to start with our petal shape, and I need a pencil, but I don't have one. Give me 2 seconds. Normally I would use a sew line pencil, but mine have gone missing at the moment, so I'm just down to the old, what do we got? The old graphite HB pencil. Not ideal because it doesn't really get into your dots in your template, but it will just have to do for today. I think the flower I'm going to fussy cut is going to be this one. Now, I know I've got a big enough piece of fabric here and I've got some yardage over in my stash, so I know I don't need to stress too much about counting how many of these flowers I've got. But the first thing you need to do is make sure you've got 6 of this flower or the element that you are fussy cutting available to you. It's no use cutting if you've only got 5. You need 6 for a flower. So this is the flower I'm going to fussy cut. So I'm going to flip over to the reverse side. Oh, and I've forgotten my sandpaper board, but you know what? I'm not going to go get it. This is live. This is real life. So on this Indulgence petal, if you can see, it's got etch lines down the middle and across, and I've put etch lines up the side. This will help fussy cutting a symmetrical pattern super easy, because you can line the same element up each side of your template. Today, the flower that I'm cutting is not symmetrical, which means when I'm done, it should give me some, apologies for the dogs barking in the background, it should give me some great movement in the center of my block. So I'm just looking at what part of the flower I want. Okay, so what I'm looking at here is this hole at the top. I think I'm going to center the center of my flower here. Now I'm looking for little bits. Get off my stool so I can see more from above. I'm looking for little elements on the print that will allow me to duplicate my fussy cut every time. So I've got it centered above. I'm going to bring the etch line down the middle. Might be a bit hard for you to see at the moment, but believe me, it's there. I'm going to aim to have my bottom hole on the dark green of this print down here. So I'm going to have that up there. I'm going to have that. And then I'm going to look at the side of this flower. Now, what I can see, which you probably can't from there, that this curved line is going to sit just inside that petal there on the print of the flower. If we go back down, and this curved line is sitting just on that curve of the petal there. So that's something I'm going to keep in my mind when I want to do my other 5 fussy cuts. So I've settled on where I'm doing. I am pin marking my holes, and I'm going to trace. So that is where my first one's traced from. I'm now going to look for the repeat of my fabric, which is just down here. So this one's not too bad. It's relatively close together. So center, got this curve against that. I've lined that one up with the green there, and this bit here goes along the curve of there. So again, we're going to pin mark my holes and do that. So that's 2. Yeah, same thing again. So it can be a little bit repetitive, but if you have worked out little references for your template to line up against, it becomes super quick and easy to do. Okay, so that's 3 of my 6. We go for number 4. Looks pretty good. Let's throw the pencil away. Why not, eh? Okay, so I've got no more down there. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. We need 2 more. My fabric's got a bit of a hole in it over here, so we're going to look and see where our next one. It's usually pretty, yep, here we go. So I know this is just down from the nose of the elephant. So if I go over on my print, I've got my whole of my fabric here from where I've cut something previously. Elephant's nose, flower. We line up the next one, and how's that? I've got just enough room. So this will make number 5. And then we'll go straight up to number 6. Lining everything up. So I've got the curve of the flower there. I've got the curve there. I'm in the center of the flower at the top, and I'm on the dark green bit in the center of the stem of the flower at the bottom. Oopsie daisy. Now, if I was doing this on my sandpaper board, so therefore do as Sharon says, not as Sharon does. Isn't that what we tell our kids? So now I'm going to go in and cut them out. This one here is at the bottom of an already cut seam. So I am just going to cut in. Now, the EPP templates have the seam allowance already on them. The templates I am using today have a 1/4 inch seam allowance. The templates that are in the Memories Are Forever kit have a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, so there's our first petal. I've started to put 3/8 of an inch sized seam allowances on all my patterns now. It's not something necessarily in Australia that we look for. On our English paper piecing, we've been taught and raised to use a 1/4 of an inch, but it seems to be something that is more popular in the US to have that. It's very marginal to go from a 1/4 inch to a 3/8 of an inch. But those guys, they like their little bit extra, so yeah, moving forward, all little Balmain templates will have that 3/8 of an inch allowance on them. So you may have noticed that one I've just cut, I've got all this fabric here. Last thing I want to do is cut in from the sides and jeopardize any future fussy cuts available from this fabric. So I just put my finger underneath, put my scissors, cut in and cut the shape. So this leaves your fabric looking like Swiss cheese, yep. But it also leaves everything around where you've taken your fussy cut from available for future projects, your next fussy cut, whatever it might be that you have planned for this fabric. So again, my hands just underneath, just so that I can get that cutting along and go around. Now, if you have a pattern with 1/4 inch templates and you like a 3/8 of an inch template, if you're fussy cutting like this, you can still trace with your 1/4 inch seam allowance, but when you come to cutting it out, don't cut on the line, cut that little bit extra. If that's what you want and that you feel that you need, and a template you've got's not currently giving it to you, just add it yourself. Super easy. Okay, 2 to go. Doing this in real time. So I've got the Karen K. Buckley scissors here. I've had these ones for quite a while. And I might even guess they've been used for paper because they're getting a little bit blunt. That might be my excuse that I have to go and invest in a new pair. Okay, last one. Yeah, tiny little snip. And we just go around. So like I said, by cutting your fussy cuts out like this, it leaves all the other fabric around your fussy cut there for your next fussy cut. Like I might come and cut another flower out of this fabric. For this quilt I'm making, I'm going to need a lot of flowers. So I might just come back and, yeah, cut my next one. So as you can see, it looks like Swiss cheese, but everything around there is now available for my next fussy cut. Okay, we'll put that one to the side. I have my 6 petals and I want to glue baste them. So what I do, I call this batch basting. When you've got like these 6 points that are all going to come together, that are all going to come in and join together at a center point, you need to baste them in the same direction. Oh, that one's been ironed the wrong way. There you go. Baste it in the same direction so that you get your nice swirly centers and it'll lay flat. So by batch basting, I lay my shapes out the way I want. I go and add my papers on top. The biggest thing with this quilt is maintaining the points. So you can see we've got points here, 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 and here. We want all of them to be maintained. When you baste, you need to try and keep them nice, tight, and firm. So what I've done is I've positioned my paper, and make sure you can go up just a little bit, hey? I am positioning my paper using my reference dots that I put on with my pencil. Okay, can you see how my glue is, let's go this way. Can you see how it's forming a bit of a point? When you're glue basting, you should never go straight down on the paper. You're going to get too much glue and it's just an absolute waste. You want to hold your pen like a pen and swipe along the edge of your paper, along the edge of your glue. Along the paper, try and leave a little bit of a gap between the edge of the paper and the fabric. Now when we do this one, we need to try, and it's pretty important, you need to get a nice sharp point there. You don't want any excess fabric where you haven't pushed the fabric over the paper enough, and you can get the excess fabric there, which technically makes your petal that little bit bigger, which can cause complications when you come to sew it later. Because we're doing gentle curves, we want the little pleats to be at the back. Again, push that up nice and firm, and the little pleats from your curves are at the back. And then we go down here, fold it over. So if I lift it up and show you closer, you can see we've got our pleats here, which means our other side is nice and flat, and you can see that we've got nice sharp points. So I'm going to go ahead and baste my others. Again, so one swipe, simple fold around, pleats to the back, round, pleats to the back on the curves, and then straight down. So this one, we start on the fabric, we finish on the fabric. Okay, and get those nice points forming. Let's see if we can start. Make sure I've got this in a nice spot for you. There, and you watch as we baste, the movement in the center of this flower will come together. Oops. So when you're working your way around, just use your finger and roll the fabric over the paper. That will allow you to get those nice firm points. And you can see the curves on these shapes are beautiful and gentle. They're nothing too hard or out there. And once you've sewn a few, like I said, you'll be an old hand at it. If you struggle sewing them to start with, don't throw it away in disgust. Just practice. It's all like muscle memory. When you know what you're doing and you've had a few goes and you're more comfortable with it, it just flows for you and becomes like a second nature. So can you see how we're starting to get the center pattern there? And as we add in more, the green, it's starting to create the movement. It looks really pretty. And this is a non-symmetrical design. It's just cutting the same element from the fabric 6 times. It's a fun way. You can get a lot of movement by using this type of element within the fabric. And like I said, I love when Shula Pink does her animals. I don't always love the animals. They don't always work for me in the quilts I want to make, but I always look deeper at the flowers that she's put in because her flowers are so pretty. I love using them. It's like this one I showed before. The flower in that. I think this was the snake print and the flower in that one. They're just so pretty to work with. Okay, last one. Okay, so we'll try and slide that under there. Last one's always hard to get to sit in. Anyway, there it is. You get the gist. So the hardest thing we have to do now is pick a leaf. Now we have the leaf template. I'm not going to cut out a leaf today because, you know, it's the same thing. Actually, I might baste one for you. I do have a paper. Let's just... Here's a leaf shape that I've cut previously. So the same thing. You just put your leaf... Can you see that one? I might go over here a bit. You put your leaf, the paper in the middle. Okay, we're going to go around the top. So all sides on this have got the gentle curve. So we've got that nice curve there. Now coming here, we want to get this point and this point super tight. So just use your finger to roll in and see how the curves formed nicely. Come around here. Again, push it up against that point and around. And this last one, we start and finish on the fabric. And we just... There you go. Oh, look at that in focus. So you can see we've got nice sharp points all the way around. And that's our basting at the back. Okay, lid on the glue. Hardest job for me now is picking from my leaves that I have previously prepared which one. So I can pretty much do anything. I've got these set up in sets of leaves. So you can see I can pretty much pull any of the colours I've pre-selected. What have I got? 6 of my 7. No. 5 of my 7. So I can choose to do whatever I want. I can go totally different and bright. I could go dark and pull out this tealy colour from here. And all these greens kind of relate back to the center. So it's just a matter of what I want to do. I don't know what you're going to pick. I'm going to go this one because it is totally different to all the others. Okay, when we come to sewing an indulgence bloom, we want to do, like with anything, we're going to sew 2 halves of 3 and then sew those 2 halves together. So we're going to create 2 halves of 3 and sew them together. But before we do that, we are going to add in our leaves. If we sew this and then come back and try and sew in this pesky little point, can you imagine how hard and awkward that's going to be? It's making work for yourself. So size an 11 millimeters needle, not in the bottom. This needs to go on here. So what I want is this sharp point just here needs to go with this sharp point just here. I am going to match them. Let me try and get as close as I can for you. Can you see that I've got my 2 points matched? And my curves go together until about here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start here and I'm going to stitch to here. So by starting here, we go in, we take our first stitch. That's an ugly knot. We're going to secure our stitch. Securing our stitch is just a knot at the start and partially way through to make sure that our stitches stay nice and firm. And we are just going to whip stitch up until the pieces start to separate away from each other. So if you look at the back, where's my needle? I'm going to sew to here, to where the two curves start to pull away from each other. When I get to this point, I'm going to secure my stitch again, because at this point I'm going to be moving this leaf. Okay, so I've secured my stitch. What I'm going to do now is lift up this bottom and align it. See how I've got like the little curve there? I'm now going to sew from here to here. Sometimes you might only get it to match from here to here, and you'll do that and you'll secure your stitch, and then you'll lift it a bit more and you'll sew through again. But this time, so I'm just going to start, done one stitch, secure my stitch, and all the way around. So I'm going to go up until that leaf finishes. Work our way through, and at the very top we are going to secure our stitch again. Done. Put that down, work out where I've put my scissors, snip my thread, open it up, and that's what we've got. We need to do this for all 6 before we start joining any pieces together. All right, let's get my next one. So I'm going to sit here and sew in real time. Okay, you've seen me sew 3 together in real time. Now I'm going to show you how we join these 3 together. So what we want is to join the 2 petals together like that. So what we're going to do, right sides facing, we're going to come down to the points where they join, and we're going to knock this tail out of the way, which just means pull it out of the way so it doesn't get sewn in. Come up here with our needle and thread right at the point where the 2 points meet, 1 stitch, and on our second we are going to leave a loop, secure our stitch, and then we're just going to start whip stitching all the way up our petals to join them. Now, we didn't sew this in, so this is going to sit nice and free at the back, that when our flower comes together, it can be pressed. It'll all swell nicely and lay flat, which when it comes to quilting, either you will be very happy with yourself for taking the time, or if you send it out to be long arm quilted, your long arm quilter will be very happy with you for making all those joining pieces lay nice and flat so they don't break their needle as they're quilting your quilt. I'm going to secure my stitch again. I just do that. So if I was up here and I break my thread, technically I'd need to go all the way back So this, I know this bit wasn't going to come undone, but now I know that I've secured my stitch here. If I do break it up, then I would break it. I would just come back a little bit and stitch from there. And it just holds the stitches nice and tight if you secure your stitch on longer pieces. Okay, I'm coming up to the point and I'm going to secure my stitch at the point here where the leaf, the leaf bit comes down and joins the petals. Okay, so I've secured my stitch. This is what we're looking at, the two leaves on each other. Now we want to do this bit up here. Okay, so we fold it over, we position it. I'm going to finger press my paper. I'm going to pull this tail out of the way. We do not want to sew him in. You can see here, the pieces align from here to here, then they start drifting away. So we're going to go in first at the very point, do one, and on the second one, we go through, we're going to go in the loop and make a knot. That's because I left my loop. Yep, I've broken it. That's okay. We can just re-knot our thread. See if I can see it. I probably should have my black cutting board out. It's easier to see the thread against. Don't need to worry about that because I know I secured my stitch back here. So nothing's going to come undone from that. I can even just cut that off. Okay, so we're going to go back in and repeat the process. One stitch. Second stitch, I'm going to make sure the loop's smaller. Try not to get too distracted by that tail. I should have cut it off, but there we go. And then we're going to start sewing up until where the leaf and the petal start to pull away from each other. Cut that off before it does get too much further in my way. Okay, probably get one more. It's where they start to pull away. So I'm going to go in for a second stitch. And I'm going to secure my stitch. And then we're going to reposition. But this time you'll notice this is at the bottom. So my piece, you see how it sort of curves there? It's a weird way to hold my hand, but it curves. So we're just making these two line again. And we start stitching. So because I've just moved my papers and I've got on the curve, I just like to do that second secure stitch as I'm going up. Now, if we didn't baste our papers or baste our fabric around our papers nice and tight, we're going to get extra fabric at this point where that leaf comes to meet the two petals, and then it can get a little bit awkward and you tend to start fudging your seams. You can make it work, but you're just adding that little bit extra fabric in there that really doesn't need to be there. Okay, and there we go. And then we go and do the same thing for the next one. we have the first half. So what we're going to do now, I'm going to jump forward and sew this other half, and then I will be right back with you. Okay, I am back. I have my 2 halves. You can see I've sewn my 2 halves. My 3 petals and my 3 leaves on each half. So now we're going to sew them together. So this is the same concept and rules that you use when sewing any 6, 8, 12 piece item together that comes together in a point. So we're going to face them right sides together. Don't worry that your papers have curved. That's going to happen because of the nature of this project. We flatten them later with the iron. We are going to line them right sides together. Make sure you can see this, with our points in the middle joining. When we come to sew through this bit, we are going to be pulling all our tails out of the way. Now, when we sew this one together, I'm going to start about here, sew through my center, up to my end, and up this curve, knot it off, cut my thread, and I'm going to come back here and I'm going to sew from here and out to that curve. So, most important thing is make sure that we're joined in the center. So I'm going to pull a little bit of glue holding that tail, so I'm just going to move it out of the way, and I'm going to start sewing about here. Can we also appreciate how hard it is to sew to a camera? Normally I would be stitching this much closer to me, but because of the positioning of the camera, my arms are like outstretched, and it's just not a natural position to be sewing in. Anyway, we're going to work our way in. As we get close to the center, I'm going to secure my thread. I don't even think I secured it at the start, did I? Too busy talking. And I shouldn't do that. I leave my circles when I'm securing my thread too big, and that's how I end up with a knot. Okay, so I'm going to come in and make sure everything's aligned. I'm going to make sure all my tails are pulled out of the way. Everything's where it should be. Pulled out of the way, and we are going to stitch straight through. Now, when I'm doing something like this, I tend to secure my stitch a lot more because I want to hold those points nice and tight. When we get to the other side, I'm going to make sure the one at the back's tucked out of the way. Everything's pulled out of the way. I'm going to come right into the middle, and I'm sorry if this is more pointing at me than you, but I need to see what I'm doing. Right in, nice and tight. There you go, went to secure a stitch in a loop that didn't exist. I feel like I'm through a paper there, so I'm just going to go again. Okay, I got my loop. Getting in a kerfuddle here. Ah! Fell to the wrong side. Cool. So that's me through the center. And now I'm just going to stitch my way out. I might just secure that one more so we're nice and tight in the center. Get rid of that tail. He's stuck in that one. We don't want him in there. Okay, and stitch all the way out. So now halfway along this, I'm going to secure my stitch again. Just keep working. Loop in it 2-3 times, secure my stitch, make sure everything's lining up still, stitch to the end. Now you all should know by now, if you go to take a stitch and you feel resistance, chances are either your needle's as blunt as and you need to change it, which is something you need to get into a habit of changing regularly anyway. Let's just loop to the bottom, let's undo that. Or you're hitting the paper, so take your needle out and try again, because you don't want to be sewing through the papers. Okay, we're getting to when my petals curve away, so we're going to secure the stitch right at that point, just like we did when we were sewing the leaves on. Open it, and we want to join this in. So we're going to align it, pull that tail out of the way, hold it to the back, right in at this very point. We're going to secure our stitch again. Okay, so it's nice and secure. So we're going to sew to where the leaf and the petal pull away from each other. You hear my pug in the background. She's outside having a bit of a bark. Okay, I'm going to secure my stitch. 1, 2, 3, secured. Then we're going to realign. So that's there. So the underneath you can see it forms, I don't know, like a boat or something. Anyway, it just does what it does. And then we come back and we just sew all the way to the end. Securing every now and then just to hold everything in place. Almost to the end. Go right to the end. Okay. Because I'm cutting my thread, I usually do one, then I come back a bit further and I do another. Just if one comes undone, I know the other one's there. Thread down, snip, open up, and that's where we're at. So what we were doing was that one there. So that's done. So we just need to come back and sew this bit together. So pick up my needle, not my thread. And if you've noticed the thread I'm using, I solely for English paper piecing use the Superior threads, the bottom line thread, and this is the colour that I use. Can you see that? It's colour 655. It's like a soft off-white bony colour. It blends with almost everything. Love it. There's a couple of colours that I use for pretty much everything. Doesn't matter if I grab one or the other. When I'm sewing dark colours together, like the navy background I'm using, I've invested in a spool of this in the navy. Because if I tried to do it with a light colour like this, you're going to see it. So it just won't work. And when I'm sewing the navy bits to the edge of this, the navy thread just like, it melts in with the navy fabric and just disappears. And it's nice and strong. The only time I have a problem with the thread, it's user error. It's if I'm scraping too much against the edge of the papers, that's naturally going to make anything fray. So the thread will fray or snap. Or if I pull a little bit too much or too hard when I'm knotting my thread, it'll just snap because it's thread and that's what thread does. Okay, get to this one. Push the tail out of the way. Take your first stitch right in at the corner there. One stitch. The next one we're going to secure our stitch 3 times. If you've got this far through this video and some of the terms I'm using are lost on you, I do have a Back to Basics series also up on my YouTube that might benefit you, or if you know someone who's new to English paper piecing, sit down and have a look through them and see if you learned anything. Leave a comment, let me know. Email me if there's something else you'd like me to put a tutorial up for. Okay, so we're almost at the end of making a flower. Okay, I'm at the end. 1 stitch, 2 stitch, secure my stitch because I'm going to cut my threads. I come back a little bit, 2nd stitch, secure, drop my needle where I know where it is, cut. Ta-da! We have a flower. Now you're going to notice it curves like a ball. Of course it is. We've been bending it. The papers are bent. Nothing that an iron is not going to give it a quick fix. When we come to pressing it at the back, all our seams will lay in the same direction. So with an iron, we just press them, but I can also do this for now. I think, have I got them right? Yes. It's better with an iron. But my ironing board is hidden at the moment, so we won't be getting that out. So quick press, go put this fabric side down on an iron board and warm iron, and just press these tails all going the same way, and then this all going the same way, and it'll be nice and neat. Leave it to cool, it'll lay flat like all my others are laying flat. Ready to add to your project, or in this case, ready to add to your Memories Are Forever quilt. So the next part of this process for me will be adding, I think I'm adding 6 outside bits, 6 of these shield pieces to the outside, and I will also be adding it to the rest of my flowers. And then I can just start piecing this quilt together as I go, building it as I go, and removing the papers as I go. There is no logical reason whatsoever. Look, you can see how neatly that all lays flat at the back. There is no logical reason whatsoever to leave your papers in your body of work. All it's doing is making things difficult for you. It's making the project heavy. It's making it more cumbersome to sew together as you build. As you can see, this pretty much screws up in my hand. So if I want to come and add another flower in here, we can get, oh, that's my thread with my needle. I can get my hand in, I can scrunch up, and I can start sewing in my next. This will also play into account if you're making my Memories Are Forever quilt and you want to go bigger than the quilt that's pictured on the front. You will need to reuse your papers. Have fun with it. Make it yours. Looking forward to see what you do. Bye.